Hello, everybody out there in internet land. My name is Corey Tanisoff, and here I'm joined by co-host Gerald
Gerald
Mendoza.
Mendoza.
And this is Let's Talk Politics, the inaugural episode where we're going to sit down and talk about politics and really whatever we feel about talking about. So to
Yep.
start us out on the docket today, we've got the Democrat Party and their happenings that they've got going on right now. We've got some coronavirus response, and we've got the bailout bill for companies, businesses, and the American people. So, Gerald, why don't you get us started with that map?
All right. Right over here we have
There we
the
go.
projected electoral college map right here for the year 2020 for later this year, assuming we continue to have the vote, which I think we will. Right now, it seems to be that the Democrats have the upper hand by a little bit, 232 to 204 in terms of what they deem are secure electoral votes. First things that stand out to me is that Texas is not deep red as it used to be. Georgia last time was a question, so that doesn't surprise me at all. Arizona, Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, obviously classic toss-up states. But even with that right now, and the current situation being as it is, the approval ratings for President Trump being as low as they are, I still think the Democrats have a chance to royally shoot themselves in the foot yet again and lose another election, leading to another 4 years of Big Papa Trump.
Well, I'd agree with you. And right now, if there's a site called electionbettingodds.com, which takes into account the FTX.com and Betfair. So it influences polling as well as looking into the betting odds at Vegas. And it compiles them into who looks like they're going to be our next president. And right now we have an 88.9% chance for Biden to win the Democratic nominee, followed by Hillary Clinton at 4.5% and Governor Cuomo at 2.2.
I'm sorry, why is Hillary Clinton in front of Cuomo?
Well, because, you never know when Hillary's going to strike. And then Republican nominee, we've got Donald Trump at 95.7 and Mike Pence at 2.2%. Now, the interesting part is when you look at the chance of winning the next president, Donald Trump's at 50.2%, which is down about, let me double check this. In the last day, he is down 0.6%, where he was sitting at 50.8. And in the last week, he is up 1%. Now, the Biden surge comes after Bernie Sanders just announced last week that he dropped out of the race, which came as an impact. But I look at this map and it gives me little flashbacks to the 2016 election when everybody projected those flyover, states to go blue. But
Right.
turned out, and we've had that for the last 4 years.
Not to say that everything's been terrible these last 4 years.
Well, not everything's been terrible the last 4 years.
I mean, you and me both agree. We still prefer this outcome to whatever Hillary would have done to this country.
Yeah, I absolutely prefer having my check and being able to decide what I spend it on at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Now, the only analysis that I have in here is whereas all these things that you're going to expect, like New York and California and Illinois, they're blue. And New England, of course, is going to roll against that. But I wouldn't be so sure about some of those, like New Hampshire and Massachusetts, not just even given a little way, or some of those split delegate states, like Maine is one of them.
Nebraska's the other one, I think.
Nebraska. I wouldn't be so sure about Maine, like just going all blue. I think they have a good chance to split. And let's not forget that if you go to the very top of that where it shows the bar, the race to it, all of that, tan portion, that could just as easily swing Trump as it could Biden.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Do you think Biden's going to be the nominee? Like, is that like almost a surefire?
I think it's a lock-in. It's a lock-in.
And he just got endorsed today by Bernie Sanders during his campaign live stream today.
Really? Okay. Well, then he's a lock-in. I don't see anybody else coming out.
You would think so, but what's his name? No, he didn't. No, Bernie did it again last time 4 years ago, and again we saw what happened.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing: is I'm going to say he's a lock for being the nominee. I'm not saying he's the lock for being the only person. Bernie's still counting, and he's still looking at the numbers, but I think his campaign officially is on hold, is what he called it.
It's suspended. It's
That's
not
what it is. It's suspended. He hasn't dropped out. It is suspended. So no more spending, but if he gets votes. Now, what I think will prove really interesting is just as there were never Trumpers, there's that same gang on the other side, the never Bidens.
right.
So when I'm on, checking in on the people I'm familiar with on the internet with Twitter and Facebook and all the like, I hear people talking about, or the phrase was vote blue no matter who. And that's pretty much an establishment thing that they used to run to try to get whoever they could to vote for the establishment candidate. And they did it in 2016 and said, oh, vote blue no matter who, even if you're a Bernie supporter. But I think they're just about done with it. And I can see a lot of the Bernie. I've heard a lot of the Bernie supporters who are our age, in their late teens, young 20s, saying, "I'm not voting for Joe Biden," and so they're not even going to show up on election day. So I think
they might show up, and they might do one of those things where
they might go independent.
That go for Jill Stein or whoever the Libertarian candidate is going to be this year, or
on the same note. I look at. Hold on 1 second. I'm looking at the other people on Twitter who are like staunch Democrats, and a lot of them are saying the old adage, the completely misinformed, a vote for third party is a vote for Trump. A vote for libertarian is a vote for Trump. It's not. It's a vote for a libertarian. It's a vote for a third party.
Right.
Well, if a vote for a third party is a vote for Trump, then I might as well vote for Trump. No? Like, damn, well, you've already pushed my hand. Because I'm sure as hell not voting for Uncle Joe. But I think that Joe Biden is their best weapon. And unless they can come together as a party and figure it out, I could see another 4.
We had a lot of skepticism at the beginning of the campaign trail, the beginning of this campaign process for this cycle. That a bunch of the women were there. Andrew Yang was an unconventional candidate. Technically, there was who else? Pete Buttigieg. There was way too overhyped Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, Beto is not getting any kind of. Especially when you look at his history and like voting history, and just everything that he flip-flops on with the issues, like I want to take away everybody's guns, and then I'm not for single payer, and then he's, I'm all for this, I'm for universal, I'm for a UBI.
Right.
That's not a candidate that you can get behind. Not to mention that he hasn't made any significant progress.
That's true. You don't get rewarded with a presidential nomination for almost turning Texas blue.
No, you don't.
You don't.
You get rewarded by getting 270 delegates.
Right.
And you don't get that by almost winning your home state.
Yeah. There's a reason Marco Rubio dropped out last time when he did.
Damn good reason Marco Rubio dropped out last time when he did. It comes to a part of funding versus numbers.
This is true.
How many thousands of dollars that you pour into your campaign are worth one voter. And the math doesn't necessarily work out for a lot of those littler guys.
I mean,
Speaking of the sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
I mean, just look at Mike Bloomberg.
Yeah, look at Bloomberg paying people to be his favor. But I think it's really interesting because one of the notes that popped up is that people are expecting refunds for their donations they gave to the Bernie Sanders campaign. And the people who are expecting those are people who supported Bernie and donated, which just goes to show, excuse me, don't have coronavirus. Putting that out there.
Gotcha.
It just goes to show that these people don't understand money. Like
right.
when you donate to a campaign, the money is spent.
Like on people's paychecks.
On paychecks to people who work for them, or on advertising or travel or whatever a campaign entails.
Right.
It's not money that's sitting there for when he becomes president. It is a donation. If I donate, let's say right now, if I've got, let's say right now I want to donate $3,000 to American Red Cross. Right. I'm not going to call them in December and say, hey, I kind of need this for my rent now. Can I have that $3,000 back? It's a donation. You don't get it back.
Right. It's
if
gone.
If you give $20 to a, panhandler on the street, shaking a cup, then you're never going to get that back. It's the same thing. It's a donation.
Exactly. I was thinking earlier, I thought more Republicans were going to try to, at least one or two Republicans were going to try to put up a real fight in this, in the campaign earlier. But I was thinking the senator who retired, who seemed to be pretty in the middle from what I can tell, Jeff Flake.
He came out of
Arizona.
Yeah.
He seemed like if anything, he had more claim to at least a presidential campaign than Cory Booker or or a bunch of these other people who got famous.
Kamala Harris.
She might be the VP, apparently.
Well, yeah. It's incredible how people roll on their hatred and vitriol towards the other candidate as soon as they get offered a position in the cabinet or in the executive.
Right.
There was that you had sent me a tweet supplement of a potential cabinet based on a Joe Biden winning ticket, and it was completely manufactured out of people who had ran for the same seat.
Yeah, hold on. Now, let me pull it up. I got it right here. It was, imagine this administration. President Joe Biden, Vice President Stacey Abrams, Treasury Secretary Elizabeth Warren, Secretary of Health and Human Services Bernie Sanders,
Bernard.
Attorney General Kamala Harris, Secretary of Labor Andrew Yang, Secretary of Defense Pete Buttigieg, and Secretary of the State Amy Klobuchar.
I think Buttigieg being SecDef and Bernie Sanders being the labor. Was that the one?
No, Sanders was Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services. I think those two would be the most toxic that you could put in any one of those roles.
Right.
Put Bernie Sanders in development of urban housing, where Ben Carson is sitting right now. Put him there. Right.
I was still surprised why he didn't become Surgeon General, but it ended up working out anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably the most popular surgeon of all time in American history. You would think that it would be a smart move getting him there, but at the same time, he kind of showed his age, that he wasn't a spring chicken when it came around to the 2016 debates.
Right. Well, then again, Hugh Hewitt being one of the moderators for like 6 of them didn't count.
Hugh Hewitt. Man, I haven't heard that name since 2016.
Yeah, he probably got fired. I don't know.
Well, not a great moderator. I'll tell you that.
Well, he's a radio host for conservative radio station Salem Radio Group. What did you expect?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the why is this? Real Clear Politics has to update one of their main boards for the election, because right now their main open menu board for the their averages Trump head-to-head campaign election is against Sanders, and I'm just like, you got to switch that over.
Yeah, they've got to change that.
So I clicked on the Biden one, and the averages shows that Biden has a 5.9 point spread over Trump. Like it's 48.9 versus 43.
On a betting spread? Or is that on delegate spread?
Betting spread.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at the 270, I could see Arizona rolling red. I can see Florida rolling red, and I could even possibly be convinced that either North Carolina or Pennsylvania would take a red up.
Pennsylvania went red.
Pennsylvania went red, and you got to think that it's because of all these, people who work in coal in Pennsylvania, and they work in commodity in Pennsylvania. And aside from Philly and Pittsburgh and State College, the 3 biggest cities by population in Pennsylvania, even Harrisburg is going to roll red. Harrisburg is one of the who had been hit hard by the recession, and they just got helped out by the Trump era blueprint.
Imagine if Larry Hogan ran for president. I think Larry Hogan has to run next time.
I disagree. As much as I love Larry Hogan and I've loved working with him in the last year, he's too good for Maryland. Like he's too good to leave, even because he won't take governorship, but he could take lieutenant governor of Maryland. But I don't believe that the governor to president is a transition that should be the blueprint.
Right.
I think governor is more of a managerial thing on a lower scale. And as Maryland is called frequently America in a miniature, I don't think it fully encapsulates what President of the United States does, or
So
how
wait,
that works.
all right. So here's a random question. What do you think would transition better um to president? A representative, a senator, or a governor? If any of those three.
If I have to give a power ranking, I would absolutely say, well, the problem that you have here is you're more than often going to see senators going for it because there's 100 of them and 400 some representatives.
Yeah.
So senators ultimately are more well known, have more power, have more connections because there's 100 of them. There's 100. So they're going to get that first familiarity. But with that aside, but then again, there's only 50 governors. So I would say I would go against the grain of popularity, and I would go in scale of how many there are. Pretty much I would inverse how much power each of them have and flip it on its head. And I would say that House of Representatives are better for president, and then senators, and then you've got governors. And the only reason I'm going to say that is I think governor has a better shot of making it, but I think a representative knows better how to work with senators and governors alike and cater to their position. So governors know essentially the entire race, especially Governor Larry Hogan, since you used him as an example of Maryland. Maryland is a historically blue state that is still blue, but has a Republican governor.
And they seem to he seems to have a high approval.
He's very well liked in the state house and in the state alike. And he's been really helpful to work with. It's been difficult for him the last 2 years, and I'm only imagining it's going to get more difficult, was working with a blue House and Senate.
Yeah, you said if the House, if the House can be blue and the Senate can be red in every level of government, it would be fine.
If the House can be blue and the Senate can be red, then we'll be fine. No, it doesn't. Then it doesn't matter who's the president. And I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a centrist. I'm an American. That's what I like to say. I'm an American. I like to believe in good spending and good personal freedom, economic freedom, and responsibility. That's what it is. And I think if we've got a good foundation for budget bills, which can only go through, a lot of the budget goes through the Senate in Maryland. If you can have that read, which would limit the spending, and then have the House of Delegates be blue, which would pump out more bills since there's so many more delegates, then you streamline it. Then it doesn't matter if you have a blue governor. It doesn't matter if you have a red governor. It doesn't matter if you've got a green, yellow, or any other, or purple governor. It doesn't matter who you have.
Right.
The bicameral legislature is made to be bicameral. It's not supposed to be two people. It's not supposed to be one group working against the governor, or one group and the governor working as a whole altogether. That eliminates checks and balances.
Right.
If every bill that your party wants to passes, then we're being run by a convention. We're being run by the DNC if it's all blue. If it's all red all the way through, then we're being run by the Republican National Convention.
Right. Party politics is party politics.
Party politics is dangerous. And as essential as it is as simple as it is, I should say, it's simple. And people like simple. People like sticking to what they know, and they know party politics. But if you can have a red if you can have a red Senate and a blue House, then I think that you are set up for success.
Right.
And people are going to disagree with me because they want red both or they want blue both. But there's no better way to balance it. Or they might say, oh, why not have a blue Senate and a red House? Because then you're going to have not a lot of bills pumped out that are put into consideration by the House of Delegates, which if there were only 100 bills that got pumped out every year, I would be perfectly fine with that. Instead, I think we're sitting at 637 or something around that in Maryland alone that got put out this session.
But to that point, right now, the federal government has a blue House and a red Senate.
Mm-hmm.
But I think who's the biggest who's the one that's detaining the most or causing a backlog of so much progress at this point? Because up until this last bill, which passed unanimously, this bailout, and we'll get to that.
Right.
It was always a battle for one or two votes somewhere.
Well, the issue here is that. Well, first of all, I would like to give a major shout out to Kentucky for Thomas Massey, who necessitated a quorum call for all of the representatives and senators to come vote in person on the bailout bill, to come fly out from their country homes to vote on this.
Right.
And as people might say, oh, well, that's not smart for quarantine, have them vote different parts. But a quorum is necessitated. It's written in our Constitution, is you need a majority of members present to have any kind of vote. You see it. I work I've frequented and worked with the Howard County delegation. And even for that to happen, to pass anything, you need a quorum. You need a majority of people present to pass anything.
Yeah, because you need a majority would be 50 plus one, whatever.
Yeah,
I've seen that everywhere. I've seen that every night.
I've seen that in plus one. Yep.
Yeah, in a church. I've seen that in a church when you're trying to change the rules of something. Like it makes sense because as long as the majority is there, then you're fine. Because if the majority of the church is there, then whatever decision is made,
then it means that their minority did not come to check it out or oppose it.
Right. That's my biggest complaint about people who decide not to vote.
If you show up and you vote, and it doesn't go the way that you want it to, you showed up, and you stood your ground, and you voted. You voted your conscience. You voted for your constituents.
Right. Then you can be clear with something, and then if you have a complaint, then I guess you have a right to complain because you tried.
We've got a history too.
And you got a history too.
Logos. You're sitting there and you've got a history.
And then there's a bunch of young people who didn't vote this last election, who want to complain the most about the problems that happened. I understand that a lot of people were disenfranchised by the fact that the candidates were two of the worst in history.
Yeah, I mean I would say that's the biggest. I'm going to actually loop that right back and into your past question that I kind of skirted around. We had two of arguably the least likable candidates. On the left, we had Hillary Rodham Clinton, who couldn't be trusted. She did have a history in working in office, but she couldn't be trusted, and all of her personal matters and her conniving and sort of ludicrous ways of manipulating the DNC to get her vote, which it didn't. There was no manipulation. Bernie Sanders lost. No matter how you look at the pie chart or try to divide it,
I don't know.
He wasn't winning that. But you look past that and you look into her principles and what she has either covered up or scandal. And not once was the Clinton Foundation brought up. And I think that would have been the dagger in the coffin, or the nail in the coffin, that set it apart. But then on the other side with Donald Trump, you've got somebody who has also personal issues. And he's got multiple sexual assault cases open against him, failed businesses, some bankruptcies, or however you want to look at that. But he had the maintenance of, I'm a businessman. And people were so disenfranchised by Hillary Clinton and by the Obama administration that they just didn't want either of them. They didn't want Obama part two. And I'm telling you what, they're not going to want it this year either.
Right. I was about to say,
literally.
That was the issue last time. Well, it was probably the best decision that Biden made not to run last time, because it would have been Obama 2.0. That's what it would have been. And I think the DNC last time was banking on the fact that, it was a woman. I think they finally realized this time, just because it's a woman does not mean the women are going to vote for her.
I would argue that a Republican woman has a better chance of winning than a Democrat woman, just because it's not pandering.
Right. That's
when you look at the reason of Hillary Clinton's a talented politician. She made her way as Secretary of State, and she has served in the legislative branch and is, a fine politician. But you can't shake the fact that she got this. People are like, oh, she's Bill Clinton's wife.
Yeah, and as much as she tried to shake that, even from before, it was, the biggest thing when Bill Clinton got elected was that his wife had her own career.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. His wife is not Bill Clinton. It's not Bill Clinton's wife. She was the first lady, but that's not her draw to being Bill Clinton. And again, with Melania Trump, I think it's kind of that same thing. Is Melania Trump is a very accomplished businesswoman, and she's a very smart individual, but people look at her and they think Donald Trump's first lady, right?
Yeah.
So I think actually somebody who is a family member who has the best chance of winning any kind of political office, elected or otherwise, is Ivanka Trump. And I don't think it's for a good reason. I think it
but
I think it's even more so nepotistic than it is for Hillary. But
she probably still has the best chance just because.
Yeah, I mean, you take your bread and you take how you eat it. That's what it is.
At this point, this Trump brand, no matter how many things people throw at it, it's still Trump, and it's still Trump brand. Yeah,
it still has Trump in gold letters standing over every building you ever walk in.
Oh yeah,
he's never shied away from that. But back to your circling back, I think that 2016 anger is kind of the reason why we have such an unproductive legislative branch, as we have seen for the past 3 years.
Well, all that they seized they thought they seized their moment in 2018, which again they also shot themselves in the foot in 2018. They thought they were going to get the Senate, but they're like, we got the House and celebrate, completely ignoring the fact that they were going for the Senate anyway. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and no matter how you cut it, you've got issues, right? You've got either party looking to take over both chambers when that's not what works for America, and that's not what works for the party. You're going to hold it. What did we see? When was it when both chambers were red? Was that 2008?
No, 16.
16.
16 was the last time. Like, it was the House, the Senate, and the presidency were all red.
Yeah. And look what that did for public opinion. Donald Trump's approval ratings were like 34%.
Right.
Even right now, I think his approval rating is standing at like 52%, which isn't spectacular. But when you think of it, 52% is immaculate for Donald Trump.
Yeah, considering the situation. Yeah.
Considering that you either love him or you hate him, then there's a certain amount of people who just don't mind him.
Right.
They're more politic oriented, and they're not there for the pomp and circumstance that is the, pageantry that's running for president. And I think that all of the legislative branch is beholden to that pageantry.
And I think you and me are in agreement that we don't like President Trump as a person. Not necessarily. He's not the best guy in the world. He isn't. But as a president, he's done good to an extent.
I think that as a leader, he is lacking in the department of any kind of unity. I think he has done more to divide our country than he has done to unite it.
Right.
But I think that everything, I'm going to say the same thing that I said in 2017 in the first 3 months of his office, is I wanted to not like him. I really wanted to not like him. I wanted to be against him and everything, but people made it so hard. Just because everything that he did, even the smallest economic restitution given out or the smallest foreign policy issue, people made it the pomp. They made it the pomp and circumstance of, the pageantry.
I remember
there's virtue signaling left and right, and everything comes down to a matter of what makes he look like a knight in shining armor. And he's never played to that. That's not who he is. Nobody who thinks they know President Trump or knows him has ever defined him as a knight in shining armor. He's a guy who sits down and gets it done. And when he's there and dishing out foreign policy and putting tariffs against China and like helping out small businesses by levying like taxes against foreign powers, and then lower or giving tax credit to American businesses that hire primarily American employees, that's a great thing for America. That helps the people. And as much as I'm not so much for, the regulation of trade, I think that's as good as you can go when you're trying to play both sides.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the examples of the not playing the knight in shining armor type of guy, the chivalrous kind of guy that a lot of people would want out of a president at this point, is one of the first things he did that they blew way out of proportion, was when he went to his first G20 summit.
Oh,
and
yeah,
all the leaders had a pin, the G20 pin, except for President Trump.
Right.
He had like the U.S. flag, and it's like, and someone put it in a tweet. It's like, look how He's like, look how dumb he looks with every single one of the world leaders at the G20 having their G20 pins, and he's the only one that didn't put it on. And then the only thing that the someone wrote underneath, like, it's the only thing was the perfect captain. He's like, well, he did say America first.
Yeah. I mean,
Let's be honest. What does the G20 do right now?
the G20 is what G20 does, and it's a load of virtues. Like I this is a very common buzzword in the Republican Party, but it's virtue signaling. It's showing, hey, I'm here. I believe in a good cause. I'm willing to do this for my country. But he's not going to sit there and make false promises. He's not going to say, yeah, we're going to reduce carbon emissions by 50% by 2030. We're going to, and it's fair because we're not going to. The only switch that can be made, there's Bernard Sanders. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's a Democratic Socialist.
Might have heard of him.
Yeah. He ran on the platform for president. Of one of his aspects was eliminating nuclear power. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Maryland itself as a state is more than, or around, I think it's hovering around 50% of our grid is powered through nuclear power.
Right. 3 Mile Island and all that.
3 Mile Island, Calvert County, all of that. And it's known, the Cliffs is what it is in Calvert County.
Even one of the most what people say is one of the most exemplar democracies in the world right now, Japan.
Nuclear power.
Just nuclear power.
Even
and they make it
even after the Fukushima Daiichi meltdown,
they kept it going because it works, and they know it works.
It's the most intelligent, it is the highest productivity, and it's the cleanest. When you think of, oh, we can have an entire like year's worth of power for a third of our population off of 2 expended radioactive cells. That you know the maintenance for those? Do you know how they maintain those and dispose them?
No.
They put them in lead containers and under like an Olympic size swimming pool times 10. And it cools it and it stores it and no radioactivity gets out. And that's how they store it. That's what they do.
The only reason the radioactivity ever even got out when Fukushima happened is because
earthquake and the tsunami that happened.
2 natural disasters in the same 12 hours.
I mean,
and even that, it took another like 14 hours with all the fail-safes it has.
We're going to take a crash course in the 3 biggest meltdowns that have ever happened. One is Chernobyl.
Right.
And that happened in Pripyat, the Ukraine, where they made a maintenance error because it was like 1960 or 70 or something like that.
Right.
And they had faulty engineers on it and faulty parts. And so the meltdown happened and they tried to do as much as they could, and they really well contained it. Considering they got over a nuclear meltdown in the 40 years is incredible.
Right.
Then you look at Fukushima Daiichi, and that activated because, as you said, 2 natural disasters in the same day. Unprecedented to hit one area. Even without the nuclear reactor, it would have been devastated. And the third meltdown was somewhere in America, and what have we heard about that? Nothing. You want to know why? Because it's not a big deal. As much as people want to say nuclear energy is dangerous, if you can, as without research or Google, if you could sit here and name 5 times that nuclear energy has hurt us as a society or killed more people than coal accidents.
Right.
I would wager more people have died of coal accidents in 1 year in the 1940s than have died from every nuclear outage or nuclear disaster that has happened.
Right. I take you up on that. Like I'd agree with you on that. It makes sense. It is safe. It is cleaner. It is better. It only fails when extreme catastrophes happen.
It fails when anything else would fail. I mean, you're in a natural gas mine and you light a match. It's gonna something's gonna fail.
Right.
You want hydrogen-powered cars. You get in a car accident and there's a mushroom cloud above a traffic signal.
Exactly.
And that's gonna happen. And people are all for electric cars. I don't get me wrong, love electric cars. I think it's the next step in eliminating carbon emissions. But you know how you get the electricity? From either natural gas or coal or nuclear energy.
Which would you prefer? Let's go with nuclear energy.
Nuclear energy. And natural gas is one of the most prevalent, and I would argue nuclear gas is the second most efficient underneath nuclear energy, and then coal, and then whatever else you want to say.
I'm surprised geothermal energy never ended up taking off as much as I thought it would.
Well, the investment didn't pan, and the technology was ridiculously expensive to R&D, so they just scrapped it.
I mean, that's fair. If it's going to take another $2 trillion to fix this, no, we already have nuclear energy. Let's just stick with that.
Stick with that. Put 2 nuclear reactors in every state, have them well managed, and then that provides jobs too, extensively high training jobs. Nuclear engineers. If you work in the Navy on nuke, then you can get out in 12 years and be paid 6 figures to operate.
Right, and then you get another job, especially around here in this area where there's so much to do.
Northrop Grumman, the big 3. Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Lockheed. You get something. Working on something.
Yeah,
it's a pathway.
Exactly.
I think that, if you want to look at it logistically, as a trade-off, like even if it's one of those philosophical, do you pull the lever or not for the 5 people versus 1 with the trolley problem, no matter how you look at it, it's okay. You can pull the lever and kill 1,000 people every 1,000 people every 20 years and have an environmental impact on a small area with nuclear radiation, or you can burn the atmosphere down to the point where it's not going to be able to ever recover. I don't know. Seems kind of a one-sided argument on that one for myself.
Yeah, some people don't like to think. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about this stimulus package and this
absolutely
this bailout for a little bit. What was I forgot what the division for it. It was like $250 billion in loans for small businesses. You need $500 billion for big corporations like the airline industry and all that. And I forgot the rest of it was it's going to be divvied up here and there. They put like $35 million for the Kennedy Center.
Yeah,
for some reason.
Immediately folded it. So $500 billion. Let's see. I'm Googling up the division right now. So the unemployment benefits are being beefed up. Then industries are getting $500 billion for airlines, cities, and states to help out themselves. Then every person, all U.S. residents with adjusted AGI up to $75,000 will get $1,200, $24 for couples, and $500 per child. It only impacts you if you're an independent, because if you're a dependent, then you're dependent. So,
right. We talked about this. Yeah. Then you're going to depend on those
exactly $1,200. The $2,400 that's coming your way if you have 2 parents, the $1,200 if you don't. And hospitals are getting $100 billion. Just airlines are getting $58 billion. Businesses are getting tax credit for keeping idled workers on their payrolls. State and local is getting $150 billion. The Pentagon is getting $100.5 billion. And insurers are getting small aid. Not a lot. The oil industry is not getting anything. Telemedicine is getting $200 million. So that's like Skype checkups for doctors and stuff like that to help them out.
Zoom doesn't need another penny right now.
Right. The cruise ship industry is getting nothing. Retail tax, restaurants, restaurateurs, and hotels will be able to immediately deduct from their taxes what they spend on property improvements. So they're getting write off on their taxes. The Postal Service is getting a $10 billion treasury loan, but not to stave off total insolvency, but not to get any kind of direct infusion of emergency cash.
Right.
Food stamps and child nutrition is going up $25 billion. Farmers are getting $24 billion. Schools are getting $30 billion, and distilleries are getting a temporary exemption from an excise tax.
So,
and that all totals into about $2 trillion.
The biggest stimulus package, the biggest bill ever signed in history of this country. And some people are saying that we're going to need another one.
I would argue that,
I think we need to see this one work first. This one, because chances are it's going to work.
I agree, and I think that this one's going to work, and I don't think that people will be out of work and not looking for it for much longer than a month or two. Right. If you're running low right now, if to anybody who's a potential listener or whatever, Amazon's hiring, grocery stores are hiring, essential businesses are hiring at an incredible rate because it's necessary.
Right.
Restaurants like Taco Bell or McDonald's are getting incredible traffic. So if you can get a job there, they're going to pay you more than your minimum wage. And they already pay competitive. So while you're not going to be getting your $20 an hour that you are, work's work and money's money. So that's there. But I think that if it were to go out again, then it would just be a little like $800 to each or to each independent instead of a $1,200, and that would flatten out the board for one more month, and then that would be the end of it. Because what we're going to see now is this is a hit that we are going to take immediately. This is going to be great for us all right now, but as soon as we're out of this next year, the federal income tax is going to raise, I would gander about 3 to 5% per individual.
Yeah.
And then your state income tax, depending on where you live, is also going to increase. Maybe a sales tax is going to increase across the board, something to make up for the money. But the federal taxes are going to go up. And the more that we try to stretch this and ask for another stimulus package, the taxes are going to go up more.
Right. I don't want to hear anyone complaining right now who said I would pay higher taxes for more help from the government.
Because you're going to pay higher taxes.
I don't want to hear anyone complaining like I will pay higher taxes for like this, that, and the other, for free school and free health. Well, first of all, look, nothing is ever going to be free in this country. Get over it.
Do you want to know how to get good health care? Get a good job.
Yeah.
And
like,
it might seem like I'm diminishing the problem and simplifying it, but I mean, it's not everything runs through college. Not everything runs through a network. Just, and
not everything.
Find a ladder. You're not going to get good healthcare working at McDonald's. Work at, be a electrician. A master electrician, 12 years on the job, makes around $80,000 to $90,000.
Learn a trade.
Learn a trade. Something.
Right.
But those are very heavily unionized.
Yeah, that's well.
Get into my union problem, but
we'll save that for another day.
Yeah,
but at least the unions do fight for sometimes to get health insurance for your workers.
Absolutely, and even the jobs themselves that come with healthcare. On that, one of the people who I'm close to works in like a T-shirt business, like a full-scale business where they sell to. I think the U.S. Open is one of them So they do like merchandising or they just do the printing and production of the shirts and then ship them out. He's on making about like $14 an hour, not a lot, but it comes with full health benefits. If you find a job and you get on full time, you get full health benefits. Even McDonald's, if you work there full time, you have a package for health benefits. I worked at Panera for 2 years. I had the option of signing health benefits.
I worked at Wendy's for almost a full year, for about 8-9 months. They gave me an option for health benefits as well.
Option for health benefits. Yep, it's not going to be your comprehensive to cover your it's going to cover it's not going to be like no deductible. It's not going to be your dream health package. If you want a dream health package, work at Northrop Grumman. Get a defense contract, work for the government. Get something
for real. Get something there, or work for Johns Hopkins Research Laboratory.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just that's the thing, is that there's not going to be any perfect healthcare, and it's a trade-off. My one of my best friends lives in Canada, and he said he would much rather, and one of my friends, actually another different one, works in healthcare in the United States, and he works in Maryland, in the University of Maryland health system. So he says it is much better to have surgery here than anywhere else, just because we have the best surgeons and the best facilities, and it's top of the line. There's not going to be a wait. You're not going to be waiting on a list for 3 months just to get your knee surgery done. And especially emergency surgeries. You walk into an ER right now and you're going to get admitted.
Yeah.
If you go to Canada, my buddy, if he were to break his leg, he would have to wait 3 hours in a waiting room just to get seen. Not even for the surgery to start, to get seen.
Right, to get checked out and say, oh, yeah, you need surgery.
Like, oh, you have a broken arm.
Yeah.
And it's a trade-off, as much as, and if already the thought of waiting in a line for 3 hours while you're in excruciating pain doesn't sound deterring enough, then you also imagine that you are going to have to pay the difference in every single one of your taxes every single month. And you're going to get nada from your tax return.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be so much that.
I mean, there's, as grand as it is, I'm a realist. If I had a bigger heart, then I would be voting blue every time I step up to the polls. But I have a big enough brain to know that every go for has a drawback.
Oh, yeah.
You sit there and you really think you can get free health care and minimum wage being $15
and free college.
And everything that you want in the world without a trade-off, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not to go, oh, we have the money somewhere, is we don't. There's irresponsible spending across the board. If it was up to me, we would cut it. Cut the alphabet agencies, cut the defense package, not completely cut, but get rid of the alphabet agencies, slash the defense package, slash the welfares, and make it all opt in.
Then spending $2 trillion, as unanimous as it was, I think it was in the moment. I'm glad everyone made the right decision, but I was a little surprised that someone didn't say, this is going to run our deficit up another $2 trillion. This is the reason you don't want that huge deficit in your country, because should a pandemic happen, which no one saw, which a lot of people didn't see coming, you're fine running a deficit as long as a pandemic doesn't show up.
Yeah, no, I heard a really goofy thing the other day, and somebody was saying everybody's a socialist during a national crisis. And that might have been one of the dorkiest things I've ever heard in my life, because we're not being socialist. We are sitting here needing to pay for things. It's not capitalism has failed us. It's not this or that. This is temporary. I would not want to get this money every month, because I know that I am paying for it as soon as I start making money again.
Right.
I'm fortunate enough that the job that I hold right now is still paying out. But soon enough, that's going to run, and I'm going to be stuck with the nest egg I built up, and then hopefully get to work once this passes over. But for a vast majority of Americans, they're not getting paid, and they are looking for something that can pay their bills or get their groceries in or get their child care, get whatever they need.
Right.
So if you want to equate that to a regular time, it's a ridiculous, it's apples and oranges. Yes, they're both fruit, but they don't taste the same at all, and they're even not the same color. And when you're talking here, like, in a pandemic, something completely unprecedented in United States history, even, SARS and H1N1 have nothing on this. It wasn't even stay inside order. It was just, if you feel sick, stay home. And that was it. But this is something global and unprecedented in the last 4 centuries. Honestly. And like as global as it is.
Well, no, let's say 2 centuries, because the Spanish flu
the Spanish
flu was worse. In direct numbers and in proportions, it was even worse.
And then if you want to look at the Black Plague, that's even worse than anything, taking out 30, half of Europe and about an eighth of the world population.
Yeah, and the Spanish flu had 500 million infections with 50 million deaths, which was a quarter and also a quarter and an eighth of the population.
Right.
And to all those people last year, at this point, literally about a year ago, who were saying, we need a plague, this is your fault.
This is your fault.
This is your fault. You asked for this.
God for a swarm of locusts, and he delivers.
When it comes to, I think at this point, I think it's funny sometimes when
if I see 4 horsemen marching down the Beltway, I'm turning my car around and going home. I'll tell you that. And I would not be surprised. I'd go, nope, this is the day to stay inside. This is the day I die.
This is the day of reckoning Papa John's told us about.
Yeah, Papa John said a day of reckoning would come, and I believe this is it.
I believe this is, stay inside. 4 You see 4 horses on the Beltway. Stay inside.
You see 4 horses. Yeah, you see a man with a name tag that says Cain and another one that says Abel, and they're working together. It's time to go home. Pack it up.
Right. You see someone come out of the sea and start marking people with 666.
Yeah, time to go home. Pack it up. And that's about what's happening right now. There's disease coming out, and it's, I think the most incredible thing is that people are still, yesterday was Easter Sunday, and there were still churches down in the South that were opening their mass and holding Easter Mass. And I believe very thoroughly, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And the stupid
Yeah,
500 people, and the stupid prize is getting coronavirus.
I am fully in support of this thing, this saying that, there's a reason God created doctors and medicine.
Yep.
Everybody who says, I'll pray anything away. No, you won't.
Pray it away.
Like, my God is stronger than this virus. I'm sure he is, but he is not going to tolerate stupidity.
Yeah.
Stay home and be smart about this. Don't go coughing into people's ears. I don't know what the church that I'm assisting right now, they had drive-in church. They didn't let anybody get out of their cars, but they had drive-in church. It's a different dynamic. They're adapting. And I'll give them that. Like, I didn't go
throwing a microphone, speaking to everybody, and everybody's sitting there in their cars.
Well, they had an FM transmitter too, which was
cool.
And they also still live streamed anyway.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, this is what we're gonna have to do for right now. I don't care how much you want to go be with your brothers and sisters. If you get them sick, that's gonna be the last thing, because God will let you get sick. Yeah. If you, exactly like you said, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Exactly.
That's it. Like, humanity is defined by that, especially stubborn religious people who don't get logic. I don't get it.
Well, yesterday, again, Easter Sunday, I traveled to Silver Spring, which is about 50 minutes away from where I live, or it's normally an hour and 10 with traffic. Nobody's on the road, so it took me 40 minutes. Got there, and it was my stepdad, my mom, and my little brother. My older brother couldn't make it because he's sick, not corona, and my grandma stayed home. And as much as it sucked to not see my grandma, I haven't been able to see her for the last month, but it's what I have to do.
Right. It would suck a lot more if she got sick. Right?
I can call her on the phone, but I can handle a virus a lot better than she can at 74 years old.
Exactly.
And I think look, I'm not going to say that I'm the picture of perfection during these trying times. I go to the grocery store once every 3 days just so I can see another human being's face. But I'll go there and pick up like 5 things and then go. And I've got my mask right here where I put it. I've got my little mask.
Right.
But most people who are wearing masks or have their gloves on, it's a safety blanket. They have on their mask and then they take it off to talk to somebody and then they put it back on. Or I was in Baltimore the other day, and outside of a Burger King, I saw somebody eating what I could guess to be a Whopper, and they still had their gloves on.
I saw this one.
They're driving their cars and they have gloves on.
My mother sent me this picture on Facebook of this guy who had his glove in his hand because he was using his phone while waiting in line at the grocery store.
Play stupid games,
win super prizes.
Yeah,
I mean, it's incredible.
As much as having, if everybody could be just not stupid for a month,
or if we let the stupid people be stupid,
right,
and get them out of here.
Yeah.
Just look, there's another thing. Some people thought gargling bleach was going to help you, keep you from getting the virus.
Play stupid games.
So my uncle in the comment section said, let them do it. We don't need them here.
Don't need them.
We don't need them here.
Yeah. And thoughts and prayers go to anybody affected.
And that's the thing. Yeah. And a lot of people,
the issue though, is that as much as it's let the stupid people weed themselves out, the stupid people are the same people who are going into your Food Lion and touching the containers of bread with their gloved hands that they've been coughing into and touching a shopping cart without wiping it down, doing all this, and then they are spreading the germs themselves. So whereas you and I might be intelligent individuals who know, hey, we should wipe down our cart, we're still going to go pick up that thing of bread. We're not going to wipe it off because it's a thing of bread. Nobody should be touching it. Unless you're going to buy it, you touch it, you buy it. That's what I learned as a kid.
And then you can come home. Some people say, oh, you'll disinfect it when you get home. That might still be too late.
I'm not going to disinfect a bag of bread when I get home.
Yeah, what do people do?
Oh yeah, let me take my alcohol wipe and just rub down a plastic bag. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not
right. I get it. And right. That's right. Because we shouldn't be having to wipe down a cardboard box of cereal.
Exactly.
With hand sanitizer.
No, it should be, if you don't know how to put any kind of precaution upon yourself, just pay for somebody else to bring you your stuff. Because the people who are bringing it are the people who are the most sanitized.
Exactly. Help the people.
The people who
are economy
are the people who have a gallon tub of hand sanitizer this big in their car, and after every delivery they go and wipe down all the way to their elbows.
Right.
they're not the people who are like coughing into their hand and then wiping it all on their steering wheel and everything. They're disinfecting everything that they touch because they are the front line of defense. They're not. They're not.
I know. It's I know. Look, this election is the Democrats to lose.
Without a doubt. I think that it's up to the.
We said it last time, and I said it in 2018. But for real, this is it. If they cannot win this election, I don't know what to do with that. That party needs to be dissolved.
I was gonna say the same words. Is if you can't win this election, you need to dissolve as a party, because clearly you don't know how to win when it's handed to you. You're sitting down. You've got everybody in the world everybody in America whose vote has not already been cast in their head, wanting to vote for another better option. And if you have somebody who has White House experience in front of you, and then you letting him tank himself in the ground, the problem is that ever since the primaries, all the other candidates were so focused on making Joe Biden to be the village idiot, and now nobody can shake that image.
Well, that was one thing.
Out in the primary and calls Joe Biden a senile old turd who can't do a crossword, paraphrasing. And then she's like, "Oh, I endorse Joe Biden." Well, cool, but we still heard you call him a senile old turd. Again, paraphrasing. She didn't actually say that.
Right.
But it's the same message. Is you come
thing
on all front. Everybody attacked him. He was the number one target. Everybody attacked him.
Yeah, and this the thing with the sexual assaults. I'm never going to try to personally diminish someone's sexual assault. So I personally not going to do that. But like, even if you have to pick the lesser of two evils, there is a clear winner. Because
there's somebody on camera
sniffing someone's hair without asking them, but instead of going to the Access Hollywood bus with Billy Bush and grabbing them by the pussy.
Right. Then there's a very clear lesser of two evils.
Right. If you can't decide between that two, because you don't want to differentiate both those situations,
turn your license for the next 7 months so that you can't poll in come November.
Can't vote. Well, you don't need an ID to vote.
If only.
People say that's racist. I really don't think it's racist. You know how many? You know who always showed me their ID. When I was an election worker in 2018, I worked in Montgomery County Board of Elections at a community center. So it was one of the more popular ones. By the way, 2018, incredible amount of people coming out to vote.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a huge turnout because it was the turn Maryland blue was what it was. It was the fallout from the Trump effect, Everybody wanted to vote blue, and then if you didn't, then you were trying to keep Maryland balanced.
Surprisingly enough, in Howard County, the Democrats went with a yellow sign, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I saw this.
Yeah. Democrats in yellow background with black letters. I'm like, what are you? I can see what you're going for here. It didn't work for me, but I can, But anyway, point is, people, we were told, we were trained, you don't have to ask for an ID unless two steps were of stuff, 2 steps of your own personal checks for this voter ticket, the ticket they give you to vote.
Right.
Didn't come up on the system. They had the automated system, which, I think worked pretty well. And it would be, you ask for their name, obviously.
Right.
You can ask them to spell it. And if not, you can ask them their address. One of those two things is going to pop up almost always. And if it doesn't pop up, then you could say, "Can I see your ID?"
And if they say no, then you're like, "All right, go vote."
No. If you say no, you would say like you can go vote in the absentee ballot.
Right.
But it's like a 20 to 30 minute process sometimes. Absentee balloting, I would never want to do the absentee balloting process. Like either vote absentee or run the absentee table because it seems very annoying. But point is, the people who would always just automatically assume that they were just going to show me their ID to make it easier on me and
everything easier on everybody, and I'm going to cover up anything important is one of these. A voter identification card right there.
Yeah, but
if you have one of those, you just go and they're like, "All right, you're good."
Right. There you go.
Nothing else needed. You walk up, people say, "Oh, I threw mine away." Well, you shouldn't have.
Right.
Like,
I have
nothing
mine. Yeah.
on you, but if I go up and I go, got this, and I just give it to them, then they go, yeah, you're good. And they go, what's your name? And I go, this. What's your address? On the card. All right. You're good.
Right. Yeah. But like, and it was almost always there was a lot of African Americans and Hispanics in that area. It's the Central Silver Spring by White Oak.
I guess and say that they were the ones who presented the ID most.
Absolutely, without question, they wanted to. They were surprised when I told them, "You don't need this." I'm like, "You don't." I'm like, "You don't need this." But after the first 2 hours of me being on the chair, handing out and giving people their registration or giving people their voter card or their voter ticket, I'd stopped saying you don't need this and just started grabbing it. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
It's easier on everybody.
Yeah.
Like, and the two supervisors were like, that's a lot quicker. Let's do that for right now. Because another thing about these minority voters is that a lot of them have several names. And if I say, give me your last name,
Yep.
that can be a confusing term.
Absolutely.
So I started switching it around. I'm like, what is your surname?
Yeah.
That's so much, like, just little things to make this voting process better. I don't believe forcing people to have an ID to vote is racist. I don't.
No,
because if you have 9 months,
if it's not connected to, like, if you can get your voting ID at the time you get your driver's license, excellent. You already have motor voter. You already have necessary selective service if you're a man above 18.
Right.
You get your license. It's mandatory. Have to do selective service. You fill out your selective service, you get your license, you get your voter ID. That should be it.
Your selective service, you get a FAFSA.
Yep.
Get your voter ID.
And I think, that especially goes, and the need for it now is greater than ever, I would almost say, because New York just allowed something in the last session for allowing illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, to get driver's license.
Oh yeah, that was almost. That's why Maryland, Virginia used to be such a huge thing, a huge place for illegal immigrants, because you could do that up until like about maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah,
that used to be allowed here in this area.
Mm-hmm. But you have that going on in New York, and when you have people who are undocumented or illegal immigrants and they can walk up and vote, I don't see it as a race thing. It's not a race. It's not an availability thing. It's and voting on its own isn't difficult enough. Like, it's not. I'm not saying it needs to be harder. It wouldn't make it harder. Voting isn't difficult. You don't even need to wait to get anything in the mail. You walk up and you give them your name, and that's it.
Right.
That's what my experience was. I walked up, said, "Here you go," and just handed them my license and said, "You guys got it. Picture's me. I look the same as I did when I was 16, except now I have some facial hair and I look older.
But it's still you. Yeah, it's still clearly you in the picture. Right.
Look at this. Put me in." And they're like, "All right, here's your sticker." And I'm like, "Cool. I voted." Put it on. As soon as I walked out, pulled it off, threw it away. Cool. Whatever. I don't care. I don't need a little pat on the back that I did my civic duty. Incredible. I don't care. You walk in. If everybody has a card and you just walk up to the desk and you go, "Oh, I forgot my card. Okay, can I see your license?" And then they'll have you in the system because it is a national system.
Right.
If you have that, then you're good. If you have a card, you just show them your card and they go, "All right, scan it, make sure it's real. Here you go. Go vote."
And if you're in the wrong place, it'll come up so much quicker. Because when you have to tell someone they're at the wrong polling place, it's taken 4 steps to get there. Yeah. It's taking your name's not coming up on this section's database.
Coming up.
The full county system actually was linked together, and we had our polling place that would say this is their polling place. It's green. If it's not their polling place, but they're in the same county, it's yellow. If they don't show up at all, that's like red. So, it's just I don't know. I don't think it would be that hard to implement that, except everyone's going to go, it's a racist thing. It's a thing against minorities. I'm like, how many minorities have their IDs?
All of them.
Right.
Anybody who's trying to vote.
Exactly. Just use your ID. It shouldn't be that hard. He's like, but what about if they couldn't get their ID before election day? If you can't get your ID within 10 months before election day, I don't think you deserve to vote at that point.
Well, you have 4 years. Well, you honestly have until the end of time to get it. Is you have when you're born, and then you go to fourth grade and you learn civics and you learn what voting is and how you have to have an ID. Then it's ingrained. Oh, you need an ID to vote. And then when you turn, driver's license age and you go to the MVA or your Department of Motor Vehicles and they do this and then they do your selective service and they go, would you like to register to vote today? Which they always ask you. Then if you say yes, then they will give you your voter ID in the mail with your license. Or as Maryland is doing with their, what is it called? Real ID. Then that has your birth certificate backup to prove this is a real American citizen.
Right.
Then that can be used to do it. However it works, just make it happen. It's not a difficult process.
Yeah,
Give
it was
10 years to institute, but it's not hard.
We even had voter registration in schools. That's where I registered to vote the first time, was in Long Reach High School auditorium.
The auditorium, when they come and talk about voting, and they're like, who wants to register? And I was like, well, I'm 16 years old, but I will still register to vote. And I got my first voter registration card. Couldn't vote. Still had my registration card. I was a registered voter at 16 years old.
Right. And that registration doesn't expire. Like, you just update it. If you move, you update it.
Well, I've gotten 2 new ones. And one of them was because my party had failed to place on the ballot after the 2016 election. They failed to place as an official party of Maryland. So I got one that said Libertarian-Other. And then I got a new one when I moved. Cover that. Got a new one when I moved. A nice little Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Nice, easy peasy. So I've had 3, and it says registration date, September 28th, 2015.
Look, if you can't...
September 25th, 2019. Not one place. It tells me my precinct to vote at. It tells me my congressional district, my county council district, and my Maryland legislative district. Not one place on here does it have an expiration date. Your registration in Maryland is permanent as long as you remain a resident of Maryland and keep your address current with your local election office. That's it.
Right. It
even has the address for my polling place on the back.
Right. If your system can't be as organized as the PTSA, something's got to be fixed. It's like, I think the main problem is that a lot of people say voter fraud, for the most part, isn't an issue.
Well, voter fraud has come up as an issue in multiple states and in multiple different limelights. It's come in with absentee ballots cashing in on 6 from one address when you only have one adult living there. It's come in on people voting for the deceased, and it's come in with undocumented immigrants voting. But we're at a new time. We're on a time where literally the process for people saying nobody's being sent back from the border. If you can get into America, you are kept in a detainment, which is already over capacity, and they're just sending you out into America and saying, meet us at a court date in 9 months. That's literally the process of it. And if anybody has a different story to tell me, they can tell me differently. But that is my awareness of how it works.
Right.
And with that comes, we have a surge of undocumented immigrants from South America and Central America coming into our country who will vote for the people who will give them the most rights and social welfare programs. Because why wouldn't you? If you're an undocumented immigrant and somebody promising, we're going to make it impossible for somebody to come into any government building or come to your house and arrest you, you're going to vote for them. You're going to look after yourself.
Right. Even though, and I've told you this, and I still stand by this statement, most Hispanics, at least, who seem to be the majority of illegal immigrants, if we're being honest, most Hispanics socially are going to end up being Republicans, and conservative ones at that.
Right.
But the only thing that gets them is the immigration question. And that's,
Well, that's it, because everybody either is the group that you're focusing on when you're speaking right now. It's either that they know somebody or they are somebody. And they're going to look at this and say, I got to look after myself. I got to look after my family. I got to look after my community. Right. And they don't want to vote for the guy who wants to kick their people out of the country by force, So
even though quietly President Barack Obama had deported more people than President George Bush or President Clinton combined.
Right.
And no one ever likes to pull that up. I love to pull that up because it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Of course, it would be something that would never be mentioned. But guess
Well,
who deported more people than anyone else? President Obama.
I always take that with a grain of salt because it is a changing of the times. Back in Clinton administration and the Bush administrations, senior and junior, there wasn't a huge immigration issue. And then it kicked up in the Obama administration because we had lenient borders and low security borders at that. And so people thought, wait a minute, we can go somewhere where we will be getting paid 10 times more for 10 times less work.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
People are working in Mexico and in Colombia, working in fields for $1 a day, pretty much conversion rate. And they're going to be working at that. You move to America and you're working at McDonald's and you make $12 an hour, 11, whatever you make, you're making more money already. And with that, and they can't kick me out now. Sign me up. I'm here to stay.
Oh, I can share this rent with 2 other families in one house, and we'll rent out this house and rent out rooms and make it easier for me to send even more money back to my family over there. Yeah, I'm going to do that.
And I've worked with a lot of undocumented immigrants or legal immigrants who are trying to get their undocumented family up, and they send a lot of money back home because there's not money to be found.
Right.
But there is to be found here. And I think the easy answer to it is, the issue that we were just talking about is making that photo ID system, making that mandatory voter ID, make that a reality. Because it's not racist, it's securing the foundations of our voting.
Which is supposed to be the foundations of our democracy.
Well, it's not a democracy. America's not a democracy.
Of our republic.
Yeah. It's the favorite line is, this is what democracy looks like. We're not a democracy. America has never been a democracy.
But we do democratic stuff.
But this is not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. I wouldn't even say we're a democratic republic. We're a constitutional republic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Big time. And so that's that on that issue. But I think the biggest thing to fix everything is streamline. Make the immigration process easier. Everybody who I have ever known in my life to have immigrated here legally or illegally immigrated and then got citizenship is that they're right wing because that's their belief. But also they're very anti-illegal immigration. Even if they did illegally immigrate themselves, they're anti-illegal immigration because if they had known what it took, they would have just legally done it. And it's a lot easier said than done just because our system is not what it should be. But make it easier. Speed it up.
And I think that's the biggest thing is that it's the system in of itself right now is just deterring people from trying. But and I've told you this, I say it with comfort. My parents, they did come here illegally when they were young. Their families came here illegally when they were young at some point. But they have now, my mother's a citizen, my dad's a permanent resident. They've gotten all the papers done. They follow the right avenues to stay here legally. They always pay their taxes. They always did the things and they're not over here marching for, illegal immigrants to stay. They understand. Not only is it a dangerous job to do, a dangerous thing to do is to try to jump this border because it is dangerous.
It's very dangerous. I mean, you can get picked up, especially your family came from Guatemala, right?
Yeah, my mother's family.
Yeah. So coming from Guatemala, and coming from even more of the South American countries, it's not an easy road. It's not. People have that Mexican misconception where everybody's just coming from Mexico. It's a short drive up. No, you're trekking it, whether it's on foot or your family in a caravan with a bunch of other people or just driving up or you're hitchhiking. But at any point in Mexico or in those other countries, there are actively cartels and gangs that look for people who are going to illegally immigrate and they take them in because who's looking for them?
Right. And if you're in the wrong country too, there's also guerrilla groups.
Yep.
And, militia armies that will take your children and that happens.
Yeah.
But my parents will be the first people to tell you that, as much as they've gained from coming here, they said they wish they would have done it illegally. They understand. They also say the system needs to be changed, but they don't encourage you to come here legally because it's dangerous because even as long and as expensive as it is, the risk is still too high to just try to go around it. So streamline the system and make it more attractive. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, we are not going to, as a country, let every single person who wants to get into this country get into this country. That's impossible. There's no way this can be an open border nation.
Without a doubt.
Whoever wants to believe that can, you can argue with me all you want. It's not going to happen, and it can't happen, because what makes this country great is the amount of order, at least the perception of order, and the legal system that's here, the opportunities that are here for financial gain. It's an attractive country to come to, but you got to maintain that, and one way you got to maintain that is by limiting the amount of people who come into this country.
Yeah, there's no doubt there. I mean, it's especially interesting because you're looking at America, and it's the American dream that everybody can come here and get a new start or find different avenues to make their money. But it's not without trade. There's always a trade-off, however you look at it, whether it's money or like safety or security or stability. There's that trade. And it would be so much easier for everybody involved to put the American citizens' hearts at ease, and also to make the people who are making the journey up to America to become citizens, to make their, expedition a little less risky and a little safer.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to end up wrapping it up around here. We've already been on for about an hour and a little more than an hour and 15 minutes. I think we had 2 viewers at one point. A couple comments over here, which is it's just PJ Dolan saying that Trump is going to eat Biden alive in those debates. You know who needs to sponsor the debates? Who needs to pay for ad time during the debates?
Gatorade.
No, the Alzheimer's Association.
Yeah, retirement.
Just like donate money right now, because you see where this is going.
Right. Well, that's going to wrap up our stream for tonight. This has been Corey Tanisoff and Gerald Mendoza with Let's Talk Politics. And you can catch us whenever we air, and this video will be available for archive. So when we put that up, you guys can feel free to check it out. Again, that has been Corey and Gerald with Let's Talk Politics. And we will see you next time.
See you next time.